October 1999, I insert a cartridge into my bootleg gaming system. It's titled 101 Awesome Games. The perfect distraction for a 3-year-old kid. The first game I see on the list is a little game called Super Mario Brothers. So I decide to play it, have something to brag about at kindergarten, and whoa, it blew my shit. For those of you who don't know, Super Mario is a classic platform game designed by Shigeru Miyamoto, released in Japan 1985. It has sold over 40 million copies, but I didn't know any of that at the time. I was just enthralled by the simplicity of the graphics and my hand movements being able to control the small yellow guy on my parents' TV set. Little did I know that this 8-bit style of games that I had become accustomed to, like Super Mario Bros. And Contra, were already being phased out for 3D. Gone were the days of simple, blurred, pixelated characters on your tube TV. It was now flat screens and blocky 3D dogs. A race between companies for photorealistic graphics had begun, and in our quest to consistently improve graphics, pixel art disappeared from the earth and was never to be heard from again. Except I'm lying. There's actually never been a large space of time where pixel art wasn't used in game development to make some pretty awesome games. This shit's not retro. The huge problem with labeling these games as retro is that it creates this horrible picture that every game that happens to use pixel art to get its message across is just solely relying on nostalgia to impact its audience. This is really far from the reality of the situation. These games can be enjoyed outside of the context of the nostalgia that we usually associate them with. A game like Duelist, for instance, uses pixel art in an innovative way, mixing it with a vector background and interface. This highlights the beautiful pixel art of the cards. I think it's the fusion between these styles that creates this clean digital look where nothing visually competes with the cards. Duelist is an example of the possibilities for pixel art if we stop trying to treat it like this possible fad and we start to take advantage of how it can be used to create a completely different experience for our audience. One of the strengths of pixel art is its lack of clarity. As Scott McCloud puts it in his book Understanding Comics, we can amplify images by simplifying them. Pixel art doesn't eliminate the details of an image, but it rather allows us to focus on the most important parts of that image by abstracting its form. Pixel art characters become this unusual mix between icons and traditional characters. This makes them more memorable in my opinion. For instance, think about the Goombas in Super Mario. They are instantly recognizable despite their super simple design. I like to think of pixel art as the spiritual successor to George Seurat's neo-impressionist movement, which makes use of painting small dots in patterns to create a larger image. These paintings were coined pointillism, mockingly by the critics at the time, but this term has caught on and is now accepted as the term used for this kind of art. Zooming in on Van Gogh's self-portrait shows how the different solid masses of paint are grouped together to create a full image. In pixel art, Dithering creates a similar effect by placing colors next to each other to create a gradient, each pixel still retaining its own color. This is natural as a pixel is the smallest unit that a digital image is composed of. A screen's resolution is simply the number of pixels that it can hold. It's amazing how gorgeous the sprites and animation are from old video games that were intended to be played on low-resolution CRT TV screens. The Metal Slug and Street Fighter series instantly come to mind. They are cult classics, and although they are quite different gameplay-wise, they both contain striking visuals and gameplay. They are quite amazing even now when compared to other games. The current era of game development has no shortage of great titles that use pixel art to get their message across. From the futuristic cityscapes and clean gameplay of Hyperlight Drifter to the dope platforming elements of Iconoclasts, pixel art continues to prove itself time and time again as a respectable medium to tell stories and create experiences with. While digging into this topic, I became fascinated with how large the community for pixel art really was. Not to mention the deep web-esque experience of digging through the internet and discovering a different breed of visual artists. I'm not saying that pixel art is perfect. There are problems that this medium faces, one of which is the large number of indie developers that just defaults to it. Not to mention how off-putting it can be when pixel art isn't executed on correctly. But I feel like we should avoid treating pixel art like a trendy hashtag. I don't think anyone wants it to get overused then phased out. Pixel art isn't just a throwback Thursday. I'd like to think of it as the future.